Lovecast, the BL podcast reviews. I am Alexa, and with me I have Heather, Kayla, and Pixie. Woohoo!
Hey.
Woo. So today we are going to talk about a GMMTV BL from 2023 that actually made it on all of our, I think, well, all three of our top lists for the year. Kayla's was in their top 12, and for Heather and I, it was in our top three. Um, So it's a show that we obviously had a lot of love for. We're going to be talking about Moonlight Chicken. Woo!
Yes.
Okay, so Moonlight Chicken is a story focused around Jim, who is a working class 40-year-old who runs a chicken rice shop with his nephew, Li Ming, and a few of their close family friends. So the story is focused mainly on Jim and someone he meets after a one-night stand named Wen. Wen wants to be in a relationship with Jim, but Jim wanted it to just be a one-night stand. So it's a lot of them navigating that relationship. Well, Wen also has his ex involved, played by First. And then there's also a secondary storyline with Li Ming meeting a rich boy who he gets off on a bad foot with, who is also deaf. But as he gets to know him and learn about his history, his family situations, they get really close, and some romance blossoms there as well. It's 8 episodes, so it's shorter for a GMM show. I believe you can still find it on GMM YouTube channel. I know they're migrating a lot of their shows over to Viki right now, but I think Moonlight Chicken, as of recording this, is still available on YouTube. And the runtimes are about 45, 50 minutes to an hour, depending on the episode. So, yeah. I guess, like we said, we're never really too formal with our reviews. So is there anything anyone wants to jump in with, chat off right off the bat, initial thoughts that they want to share?
I'm trying
Anyone?
to I'm trying to think of different things to say than my rant during our top BL
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I ranted about this show. I think I went in a bit, so I don't actually know where to start. Um, Maybe from just the feel of this show.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like literally everything. The color grading, the way it was shot, the way they did the sound, their locations, everything about this show felt so different
Mm-hmm.
than anything I've seen come out of GMM for BLs. Like
Yeah.
it was just, I think I said this previously or not, but it felt like, and I say this about, I've said this about like one or two other shows, BLs in general, but Moonlight Chicken felt a little bit like a love letter, a Thai love letter.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The way that it was shot, the way the story was told, it just had this like, nostalgia's not the right word either, but there was just something about it that felt so down to earth, slice of life, a little bit of drama, enough to keep it interesting. That it was just, it felt like, I don't know how else to explain it besides just like a love letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always like felt like it sort of got away from the usual format of a Thai BL. Like
Mm-hmm.
how
Mm-hmm.
Thai BLs are set up, and it's a little more darker, and I feel like comparing it to the Eighth Sense in South Korea because of the
Mm.
like just how
The
it looks,
vibe, kind
the
of, just like a
vibe
It's
of
like, I
it.
vibe.
think
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there
I
was
say
like
that.
a softness
Mm-hmm.
in the coloring of the show and
Mm.
the focus of the show. Like there was a lot of clearness, but there felt like there was this like softness, and I think that the Eighth Sense has a softness as well,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Same as kind of like Blooming has a little bit of
Mm-hmm.
softness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that whatever that technique is was utilized in Moonlight Chicken, and it just elevated the show. Like I feel like it really, it had such a very distinct way of showing this story
Mm-hmm.
that is so inherent to the Moonlight Chicken story and the Moonlight Chicken
Hmm.
franchise. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's just really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, the only way I can like describe it in is like okay, so Thai BLs in general, you have like a recipe of cooking, like you this is how you make it. And with Moonlight Chicken, it's sort of like you know how to cook. You're not following the recipe because you know what's going in there. Like you're just making it out of love, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it that's what's the difference to me.
Mm, mm.
Yeah.
I think one of the really cool things about this show is that the relationships, like in all BL, relationships are the first and foremost, like
Mm-hmm.
up front. That's exactly what we're getting in this, like in the show that we're watching. But I felt like in Moonlight Chicken, everyone's relationship with each other felt fully formed, and it felt like it was told in a way that was like satisfying. So I think that
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't just a focus on these romantic relationships. There was also
Mm-hmm.
this focus with family relationships, familial relationships,
Yeah.
and there was this focus on found family as well,
Mm-hmm.
and how that can really help you, I guess, grow as a person. And then there was also this focus on just friendships and
Mm-hmm.
how important friendships are to a
Yeah.
person, that I really, really, really loved. And the writing I thought was really good as well.
Yeah.
There weren't
I
like cheesy lines. I didn't feel like
mm-hmm.
anything was too cheesy. I didn't feel like
Yeah.
anything was like overly dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And they weren't spoon feeding us things. Like there
yes,
was like a focus on tension. Like maybe in another show you would have them like just like going for the handhold, but here it was like sort of like walking down the road and their hands not touching, but
bumping
like
Mm-hmm.
oh,
shoulders.
it was the tension and like the feelings behind like that shot. Amazing.
Yeah.
And then with like Hart and Li Ming's story, the sweetness of just kind of like what like those boys can fucking act. But just the slow sweetness of, I guess, like discovering that you actually like this other person, and then
Mhm.
this like first love sweetness is kind of what I think of when I think of Hart and Li Ming, and
Yeah.
this kind of like understanding of each other. That is
Mm-hmm.
what I got out of this show, is that each of the romantic relationships had this element of learning to understand each other, not just like
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
falling in love and this like massive romantic thing. There was this aspect of just understanding each other,
Mhm.
and that's why you fall in love.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I
I think
loved that so much from this.
yeah, I think kind of like tying it into like the community aspect that you mentioned and the way it just like focuses on relationships of all kinds. I think
Mm,
Hart and Li Ming and Jim and Wen were like an interesting dichotomy. I don't know if that's the right use of that word. But I think like with Hart and Li Ming, like on the surface level, they were so different because obviously Li Ming is hearing and Hart is deaf. But like when you got into like their inner workings and like the way that they kind of like inherently understood, because obviously Li Ming, or Hart's family like was horrible towards him, after he went deaf, not making an effort to learn sign language or communicate him and completely isolating him from the family and from the outside world, basically. And although, like, on the surface level, Li Ming has an uncle that raised him and cares a lot about him. But I feel like he felt isolated from him in other aspects, and particularly from his mother, like that there was kind of like a relationship strain there. Um, Whereas like on the surface level, I think Jim and Wen, like textbook way, should have worked a lot easier than they did. But I think that there were a lot of differences in like Wen coming from a middle class upbringing. Like, you know, he comes from a place of not having to worry about his family. He's got a stable company job. Like, his family helps cover things for him. He doesn't necessarily have to worry about like paying his rent and things like that. And Jim obviously has not had that experience, not to mention like there's a difference in age. I think it's meant to be like a 12-year age gap or something. Like Wen's in his late 20s, and obviously Jim is meant to be 40s and has had um a relationship that, well, I guess they both coming from relationships that they thought were going to be like forever type things that weren't, for different reasons. But I think there was just like a really interesting dichotomy in the two relationships where one, like on the surface level, although they started with like a kind of enemies to lovers, enemies to lover situation, like there was like an intrinsic understanding that like they just kind of got each other, which is I think why they kind of had that natural progression of you frame me for this thing, now I have to work for your family, to I'm seeing what's happening, I understand you, to we're friends, to we like each other. Whereas like on the surface you would think, you know, Jim and Wen going from a one night stand to a relationship should have been a lot smoother, but then we kind of
Mm-hmm.
learn about their characters and understand why it's not for either of them. And I think those aspects kind of made the storytelling of both relationships really compelling to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if any of that made sense, but you know,
No,
yeah.
it did. It really
Yeah.
did. I think it was also really interesting the way that we saw the money differences
Mhm.
between Wen and Jim. So
Mhm.
until it was very explicitly kind of said and shown, it was shown in the way it was shown in like clothing options. It was
Mhm.
shown in like set design. We saw when we would go to Wen's apartment, which he shared with Alan. Um, like you could see that that was like an expensive
A
condo or
modern,
like
yeah, like
a modern condo. And then you go and you
yeah.
see where Jim's living, and he's living above the shop that he runs,
Mhm.
and like it, or behind the shop, or however, in that area. No, he's not. He's living close to it. Either way, the place that he's living in is quite different than the place that Wen's living in.
Mhm.
Even I guess like location wise, when we see Wen kind of going to work and like how close he is to work and all that sort of stuff, it seems like a modern, wealthy-ish type of area. Where you go over to where Jim is and where he works, where he lives, his local area. It's not in as a wealthy, wait, how do I say that? It's not in
In
an
as
area that is
wealthy
as
as, yeah.
wealthy as
Mhm.
where
Mhm.
Wen's from. And then also just the things of like, we're constantly seeing that Jim is struggling with bills and like having to figure out how to pay certain things and going without certain things, whereas we don't see Wen going without things
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
at
And like
all,
this,
really.
yeah, like this dynamic of Jim living in an area that they basically want to gentrify and turn into like
Yes.
a tourist attraction stop place, and then when ending up being on the working for the team, the business, the company that is like trying to make that happen essentially.
Yeah.
um and I think that's also like, and obviously we find that out a little bit later down the line. I think in the timeline of things we know up front that like when or Jim is essentially trying to keep the shop and make enough money to keep the shop. But I think we learn a little bit later on, and especially Wen learns a little bit later on, that like the area that his this project he's working on is trying to
Mm.
revitalize is the
Uh-huh.
neighborhood that Jim lives in. So yeah, I think that dynamic really adds to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although, like, I just want to mention this because I know we've said it before, but this needs to be mentioned in every, like, when this show is talked about. Like, them trying to make Earth a
40,
40-year
yeah.
old man is sort of insulting. Can you just, like, age down
Just
the
cast
character?
it.
Just
Thank
age the
you.
Yeah.
Like,
character.
he's not a
You
40
could have
year
said
old
like
man.
in his early 30s or
Uh,
something. Like you could have believed that, but like
yeah.
yeah, I don't really get why and like it's well, there's a lot of speculation about why Earth always ends up in those types of roles where he's being pushed to play like a character who's a lot older than he is, but we don't need to get into that now. But it's just like, yeah, like as an actor, like you're 28 and then like you're getting cast to play 40-year-olds constantly. I'm like, bro, like let him play someone in his 20s, please. But yeah, no, in my
Yeah.
brain,
He
Jim was
deserves
not
better.
40. I did not, that
Yeah.
was not canon to me. I did not subscribe to that
Yeah.
canon.
Yeah.
No, no.
Oh, Lila.
Going back to like this show feeling like a love letter to
Mm,
Thailand, it also feels like it's a love letter to like kind of like the average person.
mhm.
I think we
Yeah.
talked about this a lot before, but like you really see that with some of the characters in the show. Like I have to like look at their names.
I was doing
Mark's
that too.
character, his girlfriend getting
Yeah.
pregnant,
Yes.
and them like worrying how they're gonna support this kid,
Mhm.
and like Gaipa, his whole parallel of being like this. I think he is openly gay, right?
I feel like
His
he
mom
is.
knows, yeah.
Compared to Jim, who I guess is but is a little reserved.
Mhm.
And just like his relationship with his mom being so
Mhm.
close, and like just seeing them
Mm.
working at the market, and that's how they make a living. Like it's those small, I guess, details with the characters and just like world building
Yeah.
that make this series feel so real. Like
Yeah.
it
Mm.
really doesn't fit the typical archetype of BL characters, I guess.
Yeah. I think we talk a lot about how like BL in it's in and of itself is like a fantasy. Like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
what they try
Yeah.
and write and sell is a fantasy depiction of romance, of certain character archetypes. And so like everyone's like, even if they're not rich, and this is like across like the same thing happens in cage, it happens in all media, honestly. Like people who are meant to be like poor or lower class or working class never actually appear that way. Like they always have designer bags and designer
Mm-hmm.
clothing and live in these fancy high-rise apartments. And like this is one of the few shows that I feel like really showed like Kayla said, like the realistic lifestyle of like an everyday working person.
Mm.
And kind of like what that looks like aesthetically and what types of things they have to think about and what they have to do in their daily life just to get by. And obviously it's not the only show that's done it, but I think it's one that's done it in a way that really like it's like the heart of the show, like, and so
Mm.
it makes it stand
Mm-hmm.
out a lot more than maybe in some other shows that have also
Yeah.
had more realistic portrayals of
Yeah.
average life, daily life.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
no, it's a slice of life. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a slice of like a realistic slice of life. Like there's
yeah.
not, I mean, there are like overarching conflicts, but like there's not like it's about people working through their relationships and working through their daily lives and what that looks like for them and coming to understand each other. And it's very slice of life in that regard.
Mm.
So, yeah.
I think Earth and Mix do that really well.
Mhm.
Like in all of the
Mm-hmm.
I
shows that
agree.
they have been in, they do, there's always just this element of everyday people
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Just normal.
making a
It
go at
feels
life,
very
making a go
natural.
at
It's
love.
very natural. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they do it really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm.
Um,
I think we
go
need
ahead.
to talk about Kaotung's acting.
I was
I
I
was
was
just
thinking
gonna
about
bring
that
that up.
before when
I
you
was
talked when
just
Yeah,
Kayla
going to.
mentioned Gaipa's relationship with his mom,
yeah.
like the funeral scene.
Whew.
And
Chills. I just got goosebumps thinking about it.
then like you watch the behind the scenes and the way Khaotung like could not pull himself together afterwards. Like
Yeah,
he was just like sobbing still. Like the way he is committed to the craft, it's just like he's incredible.
iconic.
Like honestly.
He's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and like I talked about in our top BLs too, but like with Gemini and Fourth, with this being this was their first project. Like they filmed this before My School President, and like standing their ground with a cast of Earth and Mix and Khaotung and First and
Yeah.
Mark, and they were standing up, like
17,
their skills
18
at
as well.
17, yeah, like when they filmed that,
Crazy.
like everyone was so good. Like they really got like god tier casting for that show. Like I could not picture
Yes.
anyone else doing it the way that the cast they had did it.
Yeah,
No, I
agreed.
agree.
Agreed. And all like there was when I was watching the show, there was nothing that stuck out to me that didn't fit. So like
Mhm.
acting wise, every single actor felt like they were just perfectly chosen for those roles. And then all of the like choices the director made for shots and scene work and all that sort of stuff didn't feel out of place at all. Everything flowed, everything felt like it just ran one into another. And yeah, I love this show so much. It's like, I don't know, it's like a warm hug, even though
Yeah.
it's not exactly a warm hug story, but the
No,
series
yeah.
itself
The
just
vibes, the
feels
feelings it
really,
brings.
really good to watch.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Nothing jarring, no weird sound effects. Sound effects are fun in Thai BL
They have their
when they
place, yes.
fit. When they fit.
When they're not every 2 seconds.
Exactly. No odd sound effects in this series. It was not a
Oh
rom-com.
yeah. No, it would have
I
taken
would
it.
not cry if they stopped doing the sound effects.
See, I
On
like
anything.
some of the sound effects.
I think they're
I
funny.
love a
Like I
good
think they're a
rom-com
good
sound
comedic
effect.
I don't
element.
get it. I don't
Yeah.
get it at all.
Casey's just a hater.
Yeah. But yeah.
Does anyone have any like particular favorite scenes? I know for me, like I thought of it when we were talking about Khaotung in the funeral scene, which favorite scene in terms of acting, but like in terms of like what was actually happening was very sad. But also like in terms of acting, the scene with first when Alan like shows up at the chicken rice shop when Jim and Wen are decorating for Christmas and he
Oh, I was
like
going to talk about that.
oh my god, it was such a good scene in terms of like the
Well
acting
acted
and the
scene.
emotion. Like
And
I
the
remember I
subtlety
was
and the
yeah, I was gripped. I was gripped in when I was watching that scene. Like it was so good.
yeah, agreed. And I love that. So that scene when he turns up at the shop, and like has that whole fight scene and everything juxtaposed with one of the scenes near the end at the food truck and Alan showing up and
Yeah.
being welcomed and the acting there, like those two scenes are my favorite, like juxtaposed together
Yeah.
against each other. I don't know how to say that, but like just seeing the emotion from that scene and then seeing just the changes in the dynamics between everyone in the food truck scene. I really loved that. I really loved seeing that, how far these characters have developed and grown and accepted that accepted that they've had to let go of certain things to gain other things. Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
I know it's like really early in the show, and it's like I said earlier, the scene where they're walking down the road and just bumping.
Yeah.
Yep.
That
I
is
just
such a
can't
stunning
get
scene.
it out of my
Oh.
head. Like it's the one thing I've just remembered clearly, no matter what, since I watched it.
Yeah.
It's
There are two scenes that
beautiful.
I always think about.
Mm-hmm.
And the one is whenever Hart finally snaps at his mom and they start
yeah.
fighting, but like even then his mom doesn't understand
him.
because she never thought to learn. So Li Ming is having to translate like their fight between them, and it like you can see it's like finally hitting her.
Yeah.
Basically like how bad of a mom she's been because she can't even like communicate with her son his emotions or anything. Like they have to have this third party person come in and tell her
Translate,
what
yeah.
her own son
Yeah.
feels.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I love the iconic scene where Jim finds out that Li Ming and Hart have something going on. And
Yeah.
he says the line about you're already poor and now you're gay too.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh.
It's so like you get where he's coming from, but just taking that line like in and of
Out
itself,
of
you're just like,
context, yeah.
sort of what? Like
Like, you are
so
also
funny.
pot
poor and
calling the
gay.
kettle black. Like no,
But
yeah.
you get in the context of the show, it's like,
He doesn't
yeah,
want
you've already got it
Li Ming,
hard.
yeah,
You're
to have the
going to
life
have
he
an
did.
even harder life. I wish that you didn't have, like, I wish that life wasn't like this for you. Not that you have to change, not for you not to be gay or anything like that. I just wish that life wasn't hard for you,
Yeah.
type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also really like the scene when Hart takes Li Ming to the deaf church for the first time, and or Li Ming takes
Yes.
Hart to the deaf church for the first time, and he gets like his first experience like with his community, and like when he puts his hand on the speaker
On the
because he knows
speaker.
that's how they like listen or like absorb. That's not the right word.
Feel
like
the music.
feel
Yeah,
music
like the
essentially, and it's
vibration.
got like and it's got like Ford's OST playing in the background, like that
And
scene was
Ford's
just
there.
so good. Yeah,
He's just
that's when
there.
he was performing, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. Ford popping up everywhere. But yeah, I really love that one too. And I just love that like Li Ming like reached out to like the person who like runs the church or whatever and was like
Mm.
and was asking all these questions about like how to, make Hart feel included and all this stuff, and it was just like such a good scene, and I feel like that was the first time you really saw how much like Li Ming cares for Hart and like going above and beyond like what a typical friend would do sense.
See, Li Ming is the epitome of if he wanted to,
He
he
would.
could.
Yeah, he would.
He would. If he wanted to, he would.
Yup.
Mm.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. Any final thoughts or scenes anyone wants to talk about before we jump into giving final ratings? Anything that we didn't mention yet?
Oh, what I really enjoyed about the show as well is the way that they would deliver their messages. So it never felt like it was you were hit over the back of the head with a message. It was just woven into the story perfectly.
Yeah.
And the one thing I want to highlight with that is this message around Jim's previous relationship, and being joint owners of the chicken shop and having joint finances and literally living their lives as a couple when one half of that couple passes away or disappears or whatever, the rights that he has as his partner are just kind of like stripped away. He has no rights because they weren't married, and marriage isn't legal in Thailand. Same-sex marriage isn't legal in Thailand. And then just the idea that like there were literally no partner rights. No, not even family rights. He was literally told he wasn't family.
Yeah.
When
his name wasn't on anything. And so everything just went to his parents. I think Beam was his name, Beam's parents.
Yeah. And then just the way that message was delivered, like the fact that, anyway, I can't talk more about it because it was just like, it was not subtle, but it wasn't whacking you over the back of the head, and it didn't feel preachy, and it didn't feel like, let's just insert this is the message. It was just woven into the story perfectly, and it's going back to Pixie saying that we were shown things, we weren't told things a lot of the time. We were being shown the ramifications of what happens when this law is upheld, and like how it can affect people's lives
Their livelihood
in a negative way. And it's I just really love the way that there were loads of other messages within the show, but that's the one that just really sticks with me.
Yeah, 100%. Yep. All right, in terms of ratings, I mean, this was like one of my favorite shows of last year, so I'm gonna give it a pretty solid 5. I think it's something that I would recommend like for anyone to watch, whether they are a BL watcher or not. Like, I genuinely just think it's such a well done show, and it is something like I would recommend for, you talk a lot about like what shows are good to introduce someone to BL who's never seen it before. Like, this is a show that I would include on that spectrum of shows to show how varied BL can be and how much it has to offer. Like, this is a show that I would recommend to people, so I say 5 out of 5 stars. Definitely watch it. 100% recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I loved the show a lot, but I wouldn't give it a 5. I'm leaning towards a 4.5. So the only reason it's not getting a 0.5 is because as much as they like wrapped up stories really well, I wanted a little bit more from the
Alan and
story
Gaipa?
between Alan and
Mhm.
Gaipa.
Yeah.
Gaipa?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
correct, I think.
And so I wished for just a tiny bit more from them, which is why the show gets docked 0.5. I don't know. I feel like I would feel more satisfaction from the end of the series if we had just, I don't know, just a tiny bit more to see where their relationship might start heading.
Yeah, it's fair.
Whether it's like, yeah, going to become super, like if it is going to move into the romantic, are they just going to start, like, are they going into a talking phase? I don't know. I just felt like there was something else needed to happen for me to feel satisfied with the end of the series and them, where they ended at that point. If that makes sense. Yeah. So 4.5.
Yeah. I would give it a 5. Like, it's not in my top 5 lists. And that's just like, there's no denying it's a good show and it's worth watching, right? But it's, for some personal reason, it just I didn't passionately like it, you know? Like, I didn't get that, like, strong, like, feeling you get when you're watching a show that you're just like, oh.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same way I feel about The Eighth Sense. Like, it's a really good show and everything, but it didn't, like, catch my passion for it. Like, I didn't get that, like, passionate response like I get from, like, when I watched The Eclipse.
The Eclipse.
Right? So but I would still give it a 5 just because it's undeniably a good show.
Yeah.
I think I would also do a 4.5 out of 5 for similar reasons to Pixie. I think I wanted the story, specifically Jim and Wen's story, to resonate with me more than it did. And it just it just didn't. For some reason, like, I really gravitated more towards Hart and Li Ming. But I don't know. I don't know if there's like a generation gap type thing going on, but I just like, even though I understand Jim's character, I just like, I don't know. I tried so hard to resonate with him and I guess his story with Wen, but I just wasn't, I found that I wasn't as invested in it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it is still, like, on paper, just such a good show. Everything about it. I really appreciate that the production itself was done really well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah. All right. I mean, that makes it, by Lovecast standards, that's a good show. So
Go watch.
Yeah.
definitely share your thoughts with us, whether you're watching on Patreon or on YouTube. Give us your rating. Let us know your favorite things, what aspects maybe didn't resonate with you as much, and what rating you would give it overall out of 5. Remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, that we actually put our reviews up a month beforehand, at least a month beforehand on Patreon, and our patrons also get to vote on what shows we review. So this was voted by our patrons out of our out of all the shows that were on our top 5 BL list, they voted for us to review Moonlight Chicken. So if you're interested in having a hand in what we review and getting to see those reviews first, you can check out our Patreon for that and a lot more other fun stuff. But yeah, let us know what you thought about the show, and we will see you guys very soon for another review. Bye bye!